You know that moment when a woman in a pastel cardigan and a fake pearl smile storms onto your porch at dawn, clipboard in one hand and righteous fury in the other, and tells you to start packing because you no longer meet community standards? That was my Tuesday. Karen Whitfield looked me dead in the eye and said the words every HOA tyrant dreams of: "This neighborhood has standards. Ethan. And you're out." What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I wasn't just another quiet guy in Maple Grove Estates. I was the guy who could burn her entire little kingdom down with a single folder. Maple Grove looked like the American dream on a postcard, identical beige houses with perfectly edged lawns. American flags fluttering at the exact same height. Kids on bikes that never left the cul-de-sac. But behind the white picket fences was a quiet kind of suffocation. Every blade of grass had a regulation length. Every holiday decoration had an approved color palette. And every single rule was enforced by one woman who treated the HOA charter like it was the 10 Commandments. Karen Whitfield had been president for 9 years. She spoke in that sweet, syrupy voice that dripped community values while her eyes stayed cold and calculating. She knew everyone's business, everyone's income bracket, and exactly how much leverage she needed to keep them in line. Most people paid the fines, repainted their shutters Navajo white only, and smiled at the monthly newsletter where Karen congratulated herself on preserving our property values. I was the exception. I'd moved in 2 years earlier after 20 years in the Army and another decade building a quiet real estate consulting business. I kept to myself, worked from home, and didn't attend the block parties. That was all Karen needed. The rumors started small: "He's standoffish." Then they grew teeth, probably hiding something. You know how those quiet types are. By the time she was done, half the neighborhood thought I was one bad day away from becoming the subject of a true crime podcast. I never fought back. Not at first. I just watched. I smiled politely when she left passive-aggressive notes about my trash cans being visible for 11 whole minutes past pickup. I paid the ridiculous $75 fine when my non-approved welcome mat appeared on the security camera. I let her lecture me about community harmony while she sipped her overpriced iced latte. But every time she walked away, I added another page to the file I kept in my home office. Dates, photos, voice recordings, bank statements I'd quietly obtained showing where the HOA dues were really going: Karen's new granite countertops, her daughter's private college tuition, community events that somehow always happened at her favorite winery. I was patient. Military patience. The kind that waits years if it has to. Then came the morning that changed everything. I was drinking coffee on the porch when Karen marched up the walkway like she owned the sidewalk. 2 board members trailed behind her like nervous ducklings. She stopped at the bottom step, chin high, and delivered her verdict. "Ethan, the board has reviewed your property and determined multiple ongoing violations. The deck you built last year exceeds approved dimensions. Your fence height is non-compliant. And quite frankly, your overall aesthetic is dragging down comps. We're giving you 30 days to bring everything into compliance, or we will begin the process of forced compliance, including lien and potential sale of the property." I almost laughed. Almost. I set my mug down slowly. "Karen, I have every permit the county signed off on. You approved the deck yourself in the minutes from last April." Her smile never wavered. "The board has reconsidered. New leadership standards. New vision for Maple Grove." I leaned against the railing. "And if I refuse?" She pulled out her phone. Already dialing. "Then I'm afraid we'll have to involve code enforcement and local authorities. We can't have residents thinking they're above the rules. It's for the good of the community." "Dear." The operator picked up. Karen's voice switched to full victim mode, shaky, breathless, terrified. Yes. Officer. This is Karen Whitfield, president of the Maple Grove HOA. I have a non-compliant resident refusing to vacate after repeated warnings. He's becoming hostile. I fear for my safety. I just stood there, arms crossed, watching her performance. She actually believed her own script. When she hung up, she gave me the smuggest little smirk. You have 10 minutes to start packing before this gets ugly. That was the moment the whispering tension in my chest finally snapped into something cold and focused. The cops showed up 20 minutes later, 2 officers who clearly didn't want to be there. Karen greeted them like old friends. Launching into her greatest hits, I was defiant, aggressive, a threat to property values. She even threw in that I'd glared menacingly. I handed the officers my folder without a word. Original permits. County stamps. Emails where Karen herself had signed off on my improvements. They flipped through them, eyebrows rising higher with every page. The senior officer looked at Karen. Ma'am, these documents check out. He's not trespassing. He's not in violation of anything the county recognizes. Karen's face did something interesting, first confusion. Then that special shade of HOA purple. But the covenants. Our standards. He's undermining the entire neighborhood. Ma'am. Covenants aren't criminal law. And from what I'm seeing here, your standards might be selectively enforced. She sputtered. The officers left. And for the first time in 9 years, Karen Whitfield had lost in public. That should have been the end. But Karen wasn't built to lose gracefully. The next weeks were a masterclass in escalation. New violation notices appeared daily, each one more creative than the last. My mailbox was suddenly an eyesore. My car had been parked at the wrong angle for 14 seconds. She even tried to fine me for excessive quiet because I didn't host loud enough barbecues. Meanwhile, I started knocking on doors after dark. Quiet conversations on back patios. Mrs. Alvarez, the widow 3 houses down, admitted Karen had been charging her special assessments for roof repairs that never happened. The young couple on the corner showed me screenshots of texts where Karen threatened to put a lien on their house over a temporary basketball hoop. Tyler, the night shift nurse, had been fined every time his motorcycle was visible from the street. I listened. I recorded. I added every story to the growing file. And then I went deeper. A quiet visit to the county recorder's office. A conversation with a board clerk who remembered Karen's name and rolled her eyes. Turns out the original developer who built Maple Grove 15 years ago had retained certain mineral and subsurface rights. Those rights had been quietly transferred over the years, through a series of LLCs, until they sat in a trust one controlled. I hadn't bought the neighborhood out of spite. I bought it because I was tired of people like Karen thinking a clipboard gave them godlike power. I kept building the case. Financial records showing HOA dues disappearing into consulting fees paid to Karen's cousin. Security footage from neighbors' Ring cameras capturing her late-night inspections that looked a lot like vandalism when my fence posts were mysteriously sawed halfway through. Tyler started posting short, anonymous clips online. The internet, as it turns out, loves watching HOA tyrants melt down. Karen felt the ground shifting. So she did what every cornered bully does, she went nuclear. She called an emergency HOA meeting. Mandatory attendance. The community center was packed. Karen stood at the front in a power blazer. Projector ready. Ready to crucify me in front of everyone. She launched into her sermon. Some individuals believe they are above the rules. They threaten our way of life, our property values, our children's future. I let her talk. I let her build the moment. Then I stood up. folder in hand, and walked to the front. "Karen," I said quietly. "You keep talking about rules. Let's talk about the biggest rule of all, truth." I started laying documents on the table. One by one. The financial discrepancies. The forged meeting minutes. The witness statements. The neighbors shifted in their seats. Phones came out. People started whispering. Karen's voice rose. "These are fabrications. He's trying to destroy everything we've built." I saved the best for last. I clicked the projector. The screen filled with the original subdivision plat from 2009. Then the current ownership map. Highlighted in red, every single common area. Every retention pond. Every strip of land the HOA claimed authority over. All of it traced back to one trust. Mine. I looked straight at her. "Karen, you've spent 9 years terrorizing people over rules that were never legally binding on half this neighborhood. Because the land you're standing on right now? The land under your perfect little McMansion with the approved shutters? I own it. Not the HOA. Not the developer. Me." The room went dead silent for 3 full seconds. Then it exploded. Karen's face did a full transformation: denial. Rage. Panic. Then something close to physical pain. Her hands started shaking so badly the papers she was holding fluttered to the floor like defeated flags. "You're lying," she hissed. "This is impossible." I shrugged. "Check the county records. They're public. Have been for months. You were just too busy measuring grass to notice." The meeting descended into beautiful chaos. People who had been terrified of her for years suddenly found their voices. "Mrs. Alvarez stood up and asked, very calmly, where her $14,000 in special assessments had gone. The young couple played the threatening text messages on speaker. Tyler live streamed the whole meltdown. Karen tried to regain control. Voice cracking. "This is a witch hunt. I have dedicated my life to this community." Someone in the back yelled. "Then why is your cousin's company getting paid $87,000 a year for landscaping when the grass is still dead?" By the time the county investigator she tried to call as backup showed up, the damage was done. He took one look at the documents, one look at the crowd, and asked Karen to step outside for a conversation. She never came back into the meeting. The next morning, her resignation letter was posted on the community Facebook page. It was 3 sentences long and somehow still managed to blame certain disruptive elements. Within weeks, the new board, made up of actual residents, started auditing the books. Federal investigators took an interest in the financial trail. Karen's McMansion suddenly went on the market. Last I heard she was moving to a condo in a different state where, hopefully, someone else gets to enjoy her unique brand of leadership. Maple Grove isn't perfect now. It never will be. But the fear is gone. People leave their trash cans out a few extra minutes. Kids ride bikes without looking over their shoulders. And every once in a while, someone will walk past my house, give me a nod, and say, "Thanks for not packing." So here's the question I want you to answer honestly in the comments. Was I wrong for staying silent? Documenting everything? And then dropping the hammer when she finally went too far? Or was Karen the real villain, the one who turned protecting the community into a license to bully, steal, and destroy lives? Because from where I'm sitting, the only real crime was letting people like her think a clipboard and a title made them untouchable. What would you have done? Drop your story below. I read every single one.